Welcome back. At the beginning of chapter 29, Dorotea announces the end of the true story of my tragedy. Is this really a tragedy, or is it some more modern use of the ancient generic term? Dorotea now asks for advice on how to find a hiding place in which to spend the rest of her life without bringing shame on her family. The priest wants to console her, but Cardenio speaks first. He recognizes her as the only daughter of the rich Clenardo, identifies himself as the one whom Lustinda had called her true husband, and states his intention to restore Dorotea's honor, even if he has to challenge Don Fernando to a duel. In this last detail, Cardenio sounds like Don Quixote. I swear by my faith as a nobleman, caballero, and a Christian, not to desert you until I see you wed to Fernando. And if reason is unable to make him recognize what he owes you, then I will use the right, libertad, to which I am entitled as a nobleman to legitimately challenge him for reason of the unreason that he has done to you. Remember Don Quixote, chapter 1? The reason of unreason which has overtaken my reason. Dorotea wants to kiss Cardenio's feet in gratitude, but he will not permit it. Meanwhile, the licentiate, our priest, counsels that they should all return to their village and determine what to do next. He also informs them regarding the strange case of Don Quixote, and suddenly, according to the narrator, there awakened in the memory of Cardenio, as if it had been a dream, the dispute he had had with Don Quixote, and he told the others about it, although he could not say what caused their quarrel. Cardenio's selective memory here is curious. Again, it should be easy to understand that Freud was attracted to Cervantes' narrative. At this point, Sancho appears, having found Don Quixote naked except for his shirt, thin, yellow, and starved, and sighing for his lady Dulcinea. To make matters worse, the hidalgo will not stop his penance. The narrator reveals that Sancho reports that his master had replied that he was determined not to appear before her ladyship until he hath performeth such deeds as doth maketh him worthy of her grace. It's easy to overlook the complexity of this speech. It's another case of the free indirect style, but it's compounded by the fact that the narrator imitates the squire's imitation of his master's archaic speech. So the text's form and function harmonize. Don Quixote is as lost as ever, out of sight and reduced to a savage, natural state of both physical and emotional desperation. And if the problem now is how to get the distant hero out of the sierra, only Sancho can take us to where he is. The solution, remedy, cure, or medicine appears to be at hand. The licentiate explains to Dorotea and Cardenio his plan to convince Don Quixote to return to their village. Dorotea immediately offers to be the distressed damsel because she knows well the style of chivalric romances, and moreover, she has a dress that will allow her to do it in a natural way. The priest's reaction to this natural solution is to observe that the good fortune of coincidence seems to favor them all, because without ever imagining it, sir and madam, the door to remedy your situation has begun to open, and we have been shown the one we needed. There is a moral lesson in all of this mutual aid. In other words, the benefits that arise from cooperation that meets different parties' natural needs. Perhaps we should not be surprised that the narrator now offers a detailed description of the textiles and jewelry donned by Dorotea. A dress made of a certain fine woolen cloth, and a mantilla of another splendid green fabric, and from a little box she produced a necklace and other jewelry with which in an instant she adorned herself such that she appeared to be a rich and great lady. Apparently all is well, but we know Cervantes rarely leaves things as they are. Sancho is most stunned by this display of wealth, for he was not present when the others met Dorotea. The priest begins to weave the chivalric narrative with which he hopes to draw Don Quixote out of the sierra. Cervantes makes another generic shift here, this time turning to the Byzantine novel, characterized by its many disguises and its narratives endlessly emerging from other narratives. Notice also how this story, created in order to deceive Sancho as well as Don Quixote, now takes on an international tone. Before, we focused on local events in Andalusia and the Sierra Morena. Now we contemplate a map of the Atlantic Ocean, connecting equatorial Africa to the commercial ports of Iberia. Furthermore, we have transited from the problems of social estates, in the sense of peasants, hidalgos, or nobles, to the problems of modern states, in the sense of peoples, nations, or unified kingdoms. And there's more. With the establishment of the plantation system in the New World in the first half of the 16th century, and then Philip II's annexation of Portugal in 1580, Spain became deeply involved in the international trade of black African slaves. In other words, some readers around 1605 would have recognized the curate's story in chapter 29 as a reflection, sometimes comic, sometimes serious, on the moral and economic implications of the new modern form of slave trade. According to the priest, her most beauteous ladyship is the heiress via direct male lineage of the great kingdom of Micomicona, a combination of monkey and funny, impossible to translate. She has been dealt an injustice by a giant and has journeyed from Guinea in search of Don Quixote to help her. Is this absurd, or is Cervantes making a point? Sancho, of course, is thrilled, concerned about his island and still hoping his master will avoid joining the archbishopric order. He begs the priest to make Don Quixote marry the princess. When the priest tells him that the lady is called Princess Micomicona, the squire says this makes sense. I have seen many take their name and title from the place where they were born, calling themselves Pedro of Alcalá, Juan of Úbeda, and Diego of Valladolid. These places are highly suggestive. Cervantes was born in Alcalá, St. John of the Cross, alluded to in chapter 19, and an opponent of Spanish colonialism in Africa, died in Úbeda. And it was at Valladolid where Las Casas and Juan Inés de Sepúlveda famously debated whether or not slavery was just.